Hey guys, back again with another video. Don't know if I'm going to call this a review or impressions, but I did beat this game, and a lot of people are talking about this. It's in the news as far as gaming news goes, and this is called Project. What was it? AM2R. I forget the name of it, but I'll definitely leave the link to like the official site for this. But what this is a remake of Metroid 2 for the Game Boy. And it's, you know, like completely redone music, visuals, some new mechanics have been added. I don't know like the complete list of differences because I've never played the original Metroid 2, but it's a pretty crazy remake. They've changed quite a bit. And from what I can tell, they've made it a much better game. Now, the original Metroid 2, I haven't played, and I don't think I am ever going to play it because it's like the original Metroid. I don't think it's held up all that well, or I don't think it's held up all that well. It doesn't have a map. And that's one of the big things that Super Metroid added that really made this series take off, I feel. Just without the map, it's just too easy to get lost. You have no idea where you're going. And then, of course, you know, you're playing it on the Game Boy. Samus's sprite is pretty big on that version, so it kind of makes things feel claustrophobic. And then there's the fact that it's not in color, and I don't think I would have fun playing that Metroid 2 on the Game Boy. I've played the original Metroid. I don't find that game to be fun either, mostly because of the map, and the controls I feel are a little sluggish. But the Metroid series is one of the series that I've actually grown to really appreciate and enjoy the older I get. The Metroid series, I didn't really enjoy it when I was younger. I found it very hard to get into. I think the series focus on exploration and atmosphere without hand-holding, I think really put me off as a young child. But I kind of look for that in games these days. I really appreciate that. It's kind of like, it's game design that I feel is it's kind of popular in the indie space, but as far as like mainstream games go, you don't see that kind of design too often. So it's I kind of like the Metroid series for that, and it never really got too casual, basically. Other than like maybe Metroid Other M, but I mean, even Fusion, I still think gets to the core of the Metroid series and what makes it so good. Even though Metroid Fusion I found to be quite a bit more linear and simple compared to some of the previous Metroids. But let's talk about this remake. It's very similar to Metroid Zero Mission, which is a remake Nintendo did for the first Metroid. And that's a game I actually haven't played. I need to play that. Like, that's one of those Metroid games I really need to play. That and Metroid Prime 3 are the big ones. But yeah, this has the similar control scheme. The sense of speed is similar to Zero Mission from what I understand. In this one you can kind of grab onto ledges and kind of bring yourself up. You can duck. There's a bunch of different classic Metroid moves you'll find in this game. You've got, the screw attack, you've got your power bombs, the morph ball, the spider ball is in here where you can kind of attach to walls and kind of make yourself go all along the walls, and there's a bunch of other power-ups too. I'm not sure which ones they've added because again, I haven't played the original Metroid 2, so I can't really say like what all the differences are. But from what I've heard, it's still faithful to the original while at the same time adding all like these great features to it. It's got a lot of classic Metroid staples, like being able to switch on and off which weapons and armor that you've got equipped. You've got logs that you can actually view that kind of give you a bit of lore and kind of show you like the story of the game. It plays similarly to Super Metroid, and it's really fun. Now it's kind of a linear game still, though. You're basically going to these new areas, and basically a counter will pop up on the top right, kind of indicating how many Metroids are in that given area. And once you've killed them all, an earthquake will happen, like what we see on the screen here. And once that happens, you'll basically have access to another area. And that's kind of how the structure of the game works. Eventually you'll get new abilities that you can kind of backtrack with to kind of unlock previous areas. and kind of get some hidden items. But the main structure of the game is still pretty linear, and I feel that it's not too hard to get. Like, you're not going to get lost, but there are a few instances where I was kind of annoyed, and I actually got stuck, and I had to look online, and it's one of those things where it's like I never would have figured it out. The two examples are, one, later in the game you get the speed boost ability, which has been in a bunch of different Metroid games, where the longer you run in a straight line, you get basically a speed boost, and you can kind of burst through certain parts of the environment. Well, there was one section where I had to backtrack to a previous area, but there was like this block that was blocking my way, and you had to do a speed boost through it. But it didn't look like I had enough room to actually get the speed boost going. But it turns out that I did, and you just had to stand on the very edge of this like platform, and then you can make it. And I swear I even tried that, but I just wasn't far enough off the edge to make it. So that was really frustrating. I looked up on the internet, and that's what I had to do, and I was like, okay, yeah, I never would have thought to do that again, because I tried it once, and I could swear that it didn't work. So that was kind of annoying, and there was no other way to progress at that part. I had to backtrack to make it to the end of the game. And then the other part was like there's like this bubble, these bubbles that you have to use the ice beam to destroy, and I was looking for the ice beam. I needed the ice beam, and it turns out you had to, like, I was exploring this one environment over and over, and I just couldn't find where the ice beam was. And it turns out you had to kind of go up through the roof, like bomb a part of the roof right above this bubble formation, and then you can get across it. So that I thought was kind of bullshit, because as soon as I see the bubbles, I just assume that I can't make it over because I don't have the ice beam. And I figured that ice beam was probably somewhere else and not in that exact area. So that was a little irritating too. Now, and there's might be a few areas that some people will struggle with that I didn't, but there's definitely those kind of bullshit moments that I found have been in like almost every Metroid game. The level design overall is actually really good. It's really strong. The game is super atmospheric. The music in this remake is incredible. Like, a lot of it's like remixed versions of like the Metroid 2 songs, but there's a lot of classic songs in here that I've heard in other Metroid games, and it's all really well done. The visuals, I have to say, like, the visuals look amazing. Like, the sprite work is absolutely fantastic. I really like the environment variety. I'm pretty sure there's actually even new environments and new parts of the levels compared to the original Metroid. Now, there are things about the game that I don't like. I think the bosses are a bit of a mixed bag. There are some of them that are new to this version of the game, and they're actually really unique and creative. But the existing bosses from Metroid 2, I think, are very underwhelming. A big part of this game is destroying the Metroids, and they're kind of like mini bosses, and you basically have to attack a weak point, like this green weak point, on their kind of like these weak points are actually really hard to hit. You have to kind of like aim your shots up to kind of hit them, and the Metroids just fly around really quickly, and they kind of have like an erratic movement pattern. So it's actually very hard to aim properly and actually hit those weak points. So the Metroids are actually really frustrating to fight, and later in the game you fight some like upgraded versions of the Metroids. The Omega Metroids in particular are very annoying. Like, they have all these are really annoying attacks, and the weak point is even harder to hit than on the small Metroids, and it takes so many missiles to destroy them. So yeah, I gotta say, the Metroid fights got a little old. I think there's way too many of them, and they're just not fun. They're more annoying than anything else. And then the final boss in this game is terrible. And I was really confused as to like why this final boss was so terrible. It's actually my least favorite part of the game. But I read like a developer diary kind of thing, and apparently they had a lot of trouble actually designing the final boss and making it so that it was fun to fight, because they had to adhere to the final boss from Metroid 2, where you're kind of just standing in one place firing at this boss on one side of the screen. And they were saying how they were trying to make him have all these new attacks, but it was actually too hard to avoid the attacks due to the way the fight was set up. So as bad as this final boss is, it's like this 4-phase battle. It's like this extreme damage sponge boss with like barely any attacks. so it's really repetitive and it just goes on forever. Personally, I probably just would have toned down the amount of missiles and super missiles you need to actually kill the boss, because it's just not a fun fight. But at the same time, it probably was terrible in Metroid 2, and they couldn't change it too much. Although, honestly, I maybe would have liked to have seen them change it quite a bit, but I don't know. Final boss, definitely the weakest part of the game. There are some parts of the levels that are kind of annoying. The save points actually are really generous in this game. I really like that. Some people might not, but for the most part, I actually really liked how there was plentiful save points. Sometimes, though, they're kind of dickish. Like later in the game, especially, like I think the save points are too late for some of these bosses. Like you'll have a save point, and then like 20 rooms after it, you'll fight a boss, which that's never fun. To have to die at a boss and keep coming back to him and keep going through like these levels. There's 3 difficulty levels: easy, normal, and hard. I went on normal, and it was fairly challenging. Some of the bosses were definitely pretty tough. The actual levels aren't too bad. The actual puzzle solving is not too bad either, but some of the bosses on normal mode are quite tough. And hard mode, like with Zero Mission, reduces the amount of power-ups you get. If you find like a missile upgrade, it's only going to give you 2 extra missiles, which that would be a bit of a pain in the ass. I gotta say, I don't know. I don't think hard mode would be that fun in this game. I think it would be more annoying than anything. But yeah, the actual gameplay in this is top notch. It feels like a Nintendo developed Metroid game. It's pretty amazing. I gotta say, and it's actually probably one of my favorite Metroid games, despite my qualms that I have with it. It's certainly up there with Super Metroid, the original Metroid Prime for me. Metroid Prime is, I still think, my favorite, but this is definitely up there, and it definitely makes me want to play Metroid Zero Mission even more. And I do prefer this over Metroid Fusion, actually. Although that's a game I played a long time ago, and I definitely need to get back to it. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm just really impressed by this remake, and it was mostly done by one guy. There's definitely some other people that worked on some of the graphic design, and there's a bunch of different testers, but it was mostly the work of one guy over like I want to say like a 6 to 7 year period, which is pretty crazy. I had heard about this remake like I think a long time ago, but I had kind of just forgotten about it. So it's really cool to see that this has come out just in time for the Metroid 30th anniversary. Which, yeah, I've talked about the game enough. I think it's worth playing. However, you're most likely not going to be able to play it. Now, at the time of this recording, there are some torrent sites and some like non-official sites that you can still get the game from. But unfortunately, and I'm going to talk about like the news that this game has gotten. Nintendo has decided to send DMCAs to the official site, and then also another Metroid fan site for hosting the file of this game. They wanted it taken down, and at the time of this recording, it's been taken down from the official website. There are no download links. And this, to me, is fucking bullshit. It actually pisses me off. And it's typical Nintendo. Nintendo always pulls this kind of shit. And I think it's more annoying because this guy has been working on this for like 7 years. It's been this labor of love for the Metroid series, and he finally finished it. He got it out there for free, mind you. You're not paying for this. Now, I can understand Nintendo wanting to take it down if he was trying to sell this, because yes, it uses some assets from the Metroid series, and obviously there's copyrighted material here. And I think that's probably the reason they wanted it taken down. But he's put this out for free for people to play. I really don't see the harm that this is doing. If anything, it brings the brand more awareness. And I mean, what the fuck has Nintendo done with Metroid in the past 10 years? Like nothing. Like Metroid Federation Force. Like fuck Metroid Federation Force. Like that game looks terrible. And like, oh my god, it's really frustrating to me that and the fact that he had a demo for this way earlier, and this game has been in production for so long. At any point, Nintendo could have decided to take it down, but no, they decide to take it down as soon as it's completely released. After he's put in all this time and effort into making this remake, and now they decide to take it down. It's really baffling, and like all the stories you hear of Nintendo, not this, but just a bunch of other shit. I like Nintendo less and less these days. I swear. It's really hard to be a Nintendo fan these days. You know, it's a company I've really loved growing up. I've had every single one of their systems. I really like their first-party games. But to constantly do this kind of shit is it's not going to win you any new fans. It's just going to get you bad publicity, and that's what it's doing. Having these files being taken down, especially when this remake is so fucking good, and it's definitely better than anything Nintendo could fucking do. I can almost guarantee you that. It's frustrating. The whole situation is just really fucked up, and I definitely needed to talk about it because it's a shame that people that didn't download it right away, like me, might have a bit of a harder time getting it. Now, the fact that it was released, that it wasn't taken down before it got released, means that it's out there. I think there's probably always going to be ways to get it. But I just have to think about what the lead developer on this, what he must feel right now. Like, as like a fan of Nintendo of Metroid, and this is how it gets treated. Like, I don't know. It's just terrible. It's honestly really frustrating. But yeah, I would highly recommend this for any Metroid fan or any fan of like the Metroidvania type of game. I mean, this is really great. It's some of the most fun I've had playing a game in quite some time. I was kind of in like a gaming funk lately. I was having a hard time starting a new game. I Am Setsuna and Star Ocean didn't do anything for me. I really didn't care for those games. Tokyo Mirage I liked quite a bit, but that game still had some issues. So yeah, as soon as I started this game, I was so into it right away, and from start to finish, I just really enjoyed my time with it. And it's something I could see myself coming back to. I got like 80% of the items. It took me like a little over 7 hours to complete. It's not terribly long either. It's one of the shorter Metroid games, because I think the original Metroid 2 is pretty short. But yeah, if you've always had an interest in Metroid 2 and haven't played it for any reason, really, I think this is the way to play it. I just don't think the original Metroid 2 is a good way to play it. I've heard some people think that they took down the file because they would want people to get Metroid 2 on the Virtual Console instead of playing this, but I don't know. That doesn't, I don't know, that just doesn't sound like a good theory to me. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with this. You know what, it's a game that usually I stay away from like these fan remakes, fan games. A lot of the times I don't think they're very good. I've played a lot of Mega Man ones, and I don't think I've enjoyed a single one, but this is the first time where I've played like a fan game or remake and I've come away super impressed. It's really great, despite some of the issues I had with it. So yeah, if you can find it, if you can find some way to play it, I highly recommend it. And I guess I'll leave this video off with a giant fuck you to Nintendo, because, like, man, really frustrating. But yeah, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.